it should have been noticed.
Well, it is true. It is true. You know, a lot of times, you know, my observation has been that many times the public schools, the people mean well, you know, but sometimes this does not that right fit. You know, the student might have not been in the right class. That teacher might have not really had the right skill set, or it may be total knowledge how to help that particular student. Maybe he or she was able to reach 20 of the students, but not the other 10, which is, you know, a sad thing, but it's probably has been a reality. Or it could have just been that one or, you know, one or two students that didn't fit into that, so to speak, the norm, if you will, but then they got left by the wayside. And even though the school system has tried to remedy that, but still sometimes people fall between the cracks, unfortunately. Not that they should, but it does happen.
But how are they able to pass the exams in order to get to the next level if later down the road you determine that they are not at the level that they were supposed to be at?
Well, I think at some point in time over the years, and I'm not going to say if it still exists or not, but social promotions, you know, have gone forth where teachers, school administrators, students are passed for different reasons, age reasons, and not for the right reason maybe, whether they have the actual academic skills that they need to be successful. I mean, that's really, to me, what really drives, should really drive the whole thing. But then again, sometimes it becomes about numbers. And with that, sometimes people, you know, kind of lose out.
The new testing that they do in the school system these days, are you for that or against it?
Well, I think categorically, when you talk about any standardized testing, be it the ones that are given in the public schools, the one that are given for entrance to college, and even perhaps tests, you know, such as the GED, that sometimes, and I'll say unintentionally so, that there are biases there that could relate to be cultural biases. Not intentionally, but so be it. And so therefore there's a gap. We talk about the educational gaps, you know, based on, you know, race and different things. And some of that is based, you know, because the exposure based on cultures and things like that. So that when the test asks about certain topics or certain criteria, or is requiring a person to know a certain type of skill that they might have not been exposed to, then that's where that gap continues to, you know, get wider and wider.
What separates Fill My Cup from other literacy programs?
Well, I believe one thing that has set us apart in our community is that we've stayed focused on literacy, on adult literacy. There are a lot of, or several other related components to literacy, and when you're working with adults, that seem to work well together, i.e., you know, job training, things like that. But over the years, even though we've been asked and people, you know, maybe wanted to kind of sway us that way for good reasons in their own mind, but for us, it was just best to be consistent and persistent on adult literacy and stay right there. And that's what we've done. As opposed to, yeah, I mean, it's great. I think it's a wonderful thing to do, but, you know, to offer job training and the computer training and classes and all that. But we have really saw the need early on to stay very focused, very narrow on teaching adults to read, improve their reading and practice, and get the skills they need to pass the GED.
What would you consider to be the success rate of Fill My Cup?
Well, we've had students to make pass the GED with perfect scores, but I would say about 85% of our students do improve from the level where they start with us. They improve, you know, a grade level, you know, the longer they stay with us.
How's that feeling when you see one of your students not only pass the GED, but they can go on to college, can't they? And, you know, go on to college.
Oh, that's a great feeling. It's very inspiring for me. It just encourages me to keep going, you know, in what I'm doing. Many times when the resources don't seem to be there, or, you know, the community-wide support for this very important effort, still when one person comes back, you know, to say, oh, wow, guess what? I'm going to college. I'm going to Livingstone. I had a young lady recently tell me something here within the week that I just thought was just so profound, but it really spoke to everything we're talking about today, about how it's important to connect, just about with your show.
Correct.
You know, it's important for us to connect and share information, because we never know who it might help. And then where it goes on, you know, from there, having that great ripple effect. But she said, wow, Miss Sheila, just from a telephone conversation, we went from a conversation to me getting my GED to now I'm enrolled in college. And so, and that's just, you know, that just really left a very great impact, you know, with me.
Correct.
And that's what it's about today. You know, we're having a conversation, but hopefully this information will help someone to even help us to help others. So I think this is a great thing.
Do you accept volunteers?
We do.
And what's the process for that?
Okay. We, about every 2 months or so, we normally keep it updated on our website, which is what you could find our website at www.fillmycupliteracy.org. And on our volunteer tab or web page, you would see the next date when a volunteer training would take place. And there are instructions on there with several links, very clean and workable links, where the volunteer would take some free online tutorials, and then that would prepare them with the needed prerequisites in order to participate in our workshop, which that date would be, you know, announced on there, and we would train them to work with students.
About how much time would you possibly need for an individual who wants to volunteer for your program?
I would say 2 to 4 hours a week would be great. You know, on either end of the spectrum. By the time a person, you know, prepares for the volunteer tutoring, actually works with the student, and then, you know, travel and all that. So it's probably realistically somewhere comfortably, you know, 2 to 4 hours, depending on their schedule.
What are some of the benefits to GED 2014 test takers?
Yes, good point. So I want to alert everyone that the new test, the GED, will be having a new version beginning in January 2014, as you mentioned. And so right now, I guess I really want to sound the alarm, or help sound the alarm, in that if there's anyone out there that has taken any part of the final GED test, particularly this group, you need to, you know, get to Central Piedmont, come here, wherever, whatever you need to do. You need to start making phone calls, find out what's going to work best for you, and get finished. Because after December of 2013, those test scores will not be valid any longer. So you would have, I hate to say, wasted all that time, so to speak, but those test scores will not be valid. And so we really, the community colleges around the state, and everyone across the country for that matter, are really wanting to start sounding the alarm, as well as Fill My Cup, in order to say you need to, you know, pick up where you left off. You need to, you know, get up and moving. And of course, those that haven't started, still go ahead and get started. And, you know, depending on where you are, how fast you work, and all those things, you can still be, you know, far along and get it done. So it's really important, because now you're going to have a lot of people coming to do that. So we want to make people aware of that. The new test will be, from my understanding, will be pretty much totally online.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it would be conducted in a testing situation. I mean, you just can't do it at home or anything like that, but in a testing environment, but a computerized test. And then also, like I said, so you need computer skills. So you, again, and technology is a very important part of adult education, adult basic education as well. I did want to mention that. So computer technology, like our local libraries, they have, you know, so if you don't have any computer skills, or you need to improve your computer skills, then you can do that, because that way the new GED will be totally on the computer. And then you get your scores instantaneously, so that's a great benefit. You'll get your scores right away, except for the writing, because many times it has to be, you know, manually reviewed, the essay from the writing test.
So if you take the test and you don't pass a certain part of the test, you can retake that test until you pass it, or how does that process go? Normally,
when a person has not successfully passed a complete GED, test, they would need to put in some hours of study at Fill My Cup or wherever they, choose, Central Piedmont, wherever they're working, and get that information, showing that they have put study time in. Because more than likely, it would be just kind of an exercise in futility if they just, okay, I didn't pass the test, and even though, yes, you're confident, but it's probably not feasible that you can turn around tomorrow and take the test again and get a higher score. You need to practice some more. That's the reality of it. So that's why there's a requirement of maybe 40 to 60 hours of additional study to then come back and register or to sign up to take the test again.
And how many parts of that test does the GED consist of?
The GED consists of 5 subject areas: language arts reading, language arts writing, science, social studies, and math. Now, the language arts writing has 2 parts, multiple choice and also an essay. And then the math has 2 parts. One, you can use the calculator, and one you cannot use the calculator. And those scores are, averaged together, so to speak, for a score there. And each test, you have to pass it with a score of 410 points, but you have to have an overall or an aggregate score of 2,250 points. So we tell our students what you want to shoot for when you're taking your final GED test is a score of 450, or a target score of 4 or above, of course, and 800 being the perfect score in any of the tests.
Where do you see Fill My Cup 5 years from now?
5 years from now, I see us being, well, the most well-known community-based adult literacy organization in our county, and also operating our own business model within our not-for-profit in order to generate income, to have revenue, in order to help sustain our efforts, as well as still, seeking out grants, donations, benefactors, what have you, in order to, so serving more students is where we see ourselves being in addition to Greer Heights, for example, being in more of our inner city communities.
Okay, we've got 1 minute left on the show. If anyone needs to contact you, thank you for watching, Ms. Laury. If you want to get more information, go on the website, www.paulmbrown.webs.com. Watch the show on YouTube. Just say Paul Brown with guest Sheila Laury. You be encouraged, audience. Thank you.